Hello, class. So what we're going to look at here is pseudocode that kind of walks us through the description that we see of the selection sort up above. So one of the things I would like first to do is to introduce an additional variable, and I'll make this an integer n, and I'm going to start it off at 0. So this will be an integer, and I'm going to call it n. And the other thing that I'm going to need is some kind of an integer that allows me to temporarily keep track of one of the values that's in this in the array. So I'm going to create another one, int, and I'll call it temp. So here's what the algorithm does in a kind of a recurring manner. So basically start with the first value, and the first value here is 8, and then go through and compare that value with each of the remaining values. And every single time we detect that one of the values is smaller than our current value, so for example this 3 is smaller than the 8, we're going to swap them. So to swap them, and I'll write this code down, but I think you know this. So if I was going to swap these, and I have to have an if statement that compares them, so I guess let's write that if statement. So if this is called nums at n is greater than nums at I. Interesting fact then, right? I've got to have this inside of some kind of a context of a for loop, where I'm going through and I'm creating a for loop that I guess the for loop will always start at n and go up to the length of this. So this first time through, the for loop would start at 0 and go through 7. But then once we've got the smallest value in spot 0, we would jump ahead and n will get incremented up. So in the context of a for loop, we'll have an if statement that looks something like this. If nums at n is greater than nums at I, that means that in this case right here, that this 3 is smaller than the 8, so we need to swap them. So to swap them, I might say this. I might say, for example, the temp value would equal nums at I. I'm going to grab that one, and then I'm going to go ahead and place the 8 into the box where the 3 was. So I'll say that now nums at I equals nums at n. So if you look at what I've done, I've taken the value 3 and I've placed it in this box, and then I've taken I'm taking this 8, or I'm actually not deleting it yet. What I'm doing is I'm overwriting the one nums at I with nums at 8. So the list will look like this for a moment, right? There'll be 8 in both of those boxes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say one more thing. I'm going to say that nums at n equals the temp value. So that will take this 3 and put it in this first location. So I'm going to continue to go through all of these values, right? Oops. So you can see that I've done this comparison with the first spot, but now I need to compare the 3 and the 6, and the 3 and the 1. And when I do compare the 3 and the 1, that will trigger this if statement again, so the swapping will happen there as well. And then I need to compare the 3 and the 2. Since 1 will now be in that first spot, nothing will happen. It would be the 1 and the 2, the 1 and the 5, and then finally the 1 and the 9. So that would go through, and by the time this first for loop occurs, right, by the time it goes through, I would be sure that the very first spot contained the smallest number. So there's more that has to be done here, and I believe there needs to be, I think, 2 for loops to go through and do this. One of the for loops is, I think 2 for loops. One of them is going to be starting at n and going to, I guess, this spot. So the outer for loop is going to start at n. I should say start at 0 and go up to 5. That's what the outer for loop will do. And I would probably use the variable n for that outer for loop, because what's going to happen is that increments for the inner loop, that n value then would become where I start. So you can see the first time I start at the 0, then I start at this 1, then I would start at the second spot. So play with that. So 2 for loops, and basically that's what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for you to create a program that implements the selection sort algorithm, and I will post a small bit of starter code just to kind of get you so you can see where I want you to begin and what I want it to look like. But that's all I want you to accomplish in class today, is create an implementation of the selection sort algorithm.